You know, they're everywhere. Seriously. In the air we breathe, the water we drink, they're even inside every single living thing on this planet. But what are they really? Are they just villains? Are they survivors? Or are they one of nature's biggest, most fascinating unsolved puzzles? Okay, let's get into it.
All right, so this is the big question, right? The one that has stumped scientists for more than 100 years. Are viruses actually alive? Or are they just these incredibly complex little non-living machines that are built for one thing and one thing only, to make more of themselves? And let me tell you, the answer? It's not as simple as you think.
To even start to wrap our heads around this, we gotta know this one word, acellular. Now, think about pretty much every living thing you can imagine. Bacteria, plants, us. We're all made of cells, right? These tiny little factories that make energy and build everything needed to survive. Well, viruses, they just toss that entire rule book right out the window. They have no cells, no internal machinery, nothing. They're like a blueprint without the factory, which is honestly what makes them so unique and kind of spooky.
So, if a virus isn't a cell, then what in the world is it made of? Let's, peel back the layers and see how this incredible little machine is put together. Okay, first up, a little bit of lingo. When we're talking about a single, complete virus particle that's ready for action, we call it a virion. You can think of this as the virus in its final infectious form. It's basically a tiny biological missile, fully armed with genetic code, just waiting to lock onto a target.
So this virion, it has up to 3 main parts. Right at its heart, you've got the core. This holds all the important stuff, the genetic material, which can be either DNA or RNA. Then, wrapped around that, is its armor, a really tough protein shell called a capsid. And then, some viruses have this final, super sneaky layer, a cloak or an envelope, which they actually steal from the membrane of the host cell they just blew up. Clever, right?
And this is where it all really clicks into place. Just look at the difference. On the right, you've got a living cell. It's like a bustling city, full of organelles and ribosomes, making its own energy, doing its own thing. Now look at the virus on the left. It's got, well, none of that. It's a total minimalist. It's completely helpless on its own. It has no choice but to hijack a host cell and use its machinery to replicate. It is the ultimate parasite.
You know, for being so simple on the inside, viruses come in this incredible variety of shapes on the outside. And this isn't just about looking cool. Their structure is a huge clue to how they're classified and how they work. So let's take a look at the family album.
First up, we've got this elegant helical shape. The easiest way to picture it is like a spiral staircase. You have these protein subunits that just wind their way around the genetic material, which is tucked safely in the middle. It's a simple but really strong design, and you see it a lot in viruses that infect plants.
All right, next up, we have the icosahedral virus. And yeah, I know, it's a mouthful, but the idea is actually brilliant. A perfect example of nature's efficiency. It's a shape with 20 identical triangular faces, kind of like a soccer ball. This lets it build a super strong, almost perfectly round container for its genes using the fewest possible parts. And that's why it's the go-to design for viruses that infect animals, like us.
So remember that optional cloak we talked about? Well, these are the enveloped viruses. As they're bursting out of a host cell, they cleverly wrap themselves in a piece of its membrane. It's like the perfect camouflage, helping the virus avoid the immune system because it looks like one of the body's own cells. The infamous HIV? Yep, it uses this exact strategy.
And last but not least, we've got the complex viruses. These are kind of the oddballs that don't really fit in the other boxes. The most famous example is a bacteriophage, a virus that only infects bacteria. And I mean, look at it. It's got this icosahedral head and a helical tail. It looks just like these tiny sci-fi lunar landers literally built to latch on and inject their DNA.
So how in the world did we figure all this stuff out? Well, what's wild is that most of what we know is pretty recent. The second half of the 20th century was just this golden age for virology. Our understanding basically exploded from almost zero.
And the biggest reason they were invisible for so long? It's just their insane size. Most viruses are somewhere between 20 and 350 nanometers. That is so small you can't even imagine it. It's way too tiny to see with a regular microscope. It wasn't until we invented the electron microscope that humanity could finally lay eyes on this invisible enemy. But once we could finally see them, man, the floodgates just opened. Just think about how fast this all happened. In 1957, we figure out a virus causing disease in cows.
Just 6 years later, bam, 1963, we discover hepatitis B. Then comes the really big one, 1970, the discovery of an enzyme called reverse transcriptase. This lets certain viruses, retroviruses, literally write their own code into their host's DNA, and that was a total game changer. That one discovery directly led to isolating HIV in '83 and then finding Hep C in '89. This wasn't just progress, it was a full-blown medical revolution.
But even with all of that incredible progress, maybe the biggest question of all is still sitting there, unanswered. It's a real scientific cold case. Where did viruses even come from in the first place?
And this really gets to the heart of the problem. Unlike a T-Rex or an early human, viruses don't leave any bones behind. They're so tiny and fragile that they just don't fossilize. So we have almost no physical record of what their ancient ancestors were like.
So, without fossils, how do you even begin to investigate? Well, scientists have had to become these incredible genetic detectives. The general thinking is that viruses have been around for as long as cells have, and by comparing the DNA and RNA of modern viruses, they can start to piece together their family tree. And here's the amazing part. Sometimes, ancient viral DNA gets stuck in an animal's genome and then gets passed down for millions of years. It's literally a genetic fossil, a ghost in our own machine, giving us this direct peek into the ancient past. How cool is that?
And that really brings us to our final thought here. Viruses, they're not just these mindless agents of disease. They're ancient storytellers. They're carrying around genetic history from the very dawn of life. They've shaped evolution, including our own. So the question isn't just about where they came from. It's about what other secrets, what other stories are locked away inside these ultimate survivors.